Hi good people, Titus here for part 7 of our Asteroids mini-series, and in this video we'll create the heads-up display so we can give the player visual feedback on score and lives. Let's not waste any time and jump right into it. Alright, starting off we're going to create some folders. First folder will be our widgets folder, and then the second folder is just going to be a fonts folder. I'm going to go into the widgets folder, right click, create a new blueprint class. Actually, sorry, we'll cancel that. Right click, go to user interface, and then choose widget blueprint. And then there's a user widget option, just choose that. And then let's give it a name of WBP_HUD. You can double click and dock that into our window here. Starting off, I'm going to search for a canvas panel. Drag that in here. And then I think we're just going to focus on the score part. So we're going to need a text element. So we can drag text here. We can go to our anchors section, and I'm going to use the upper left corner. So I'm going to click that first. Then I'm going to go back and hold Control and click it. And then for good measure, hold Shift. And then click it again. I'm then going to use a custom offset and a size. For the size, I'm actually going to use 1600 on the X, and I'm going to do 80 on the Y. And then for the offset here, I think I'm going to try 0.1, negative 0.1. And then let's try negative 0.5. I think that'll look okay. And then I want the text to say, let's do like just a number. And I want to actually change the font, so we can come back here. Let's go to our fonts folder. And then I got a pixel font from the web, so I can just drag that into here. Any TrueType or open text font or open type fonts should work. So choose yes to that. And now under the font section, I can drop this in and select that pixel. And then maybe I do a size of 80. And I think that will look okay for the aesthetic of this game. The other thing we'll have to do is let's actually rename our text element. So instead of text block _0, let's just call it score. And let's set it to a variable by checking this box here. And then we compile. In the upper right hand corner of any widget, you have a designer view, which is basically how you create the look and feel of it. But then you have a graph view, and that's where you kind of do the coding aspect of it. There's not going to be much code for this. We're just going to create a custom event. So add custom event. We can call it update score. And then if you set your text element to a variable, you should see score on the left here. You can just drag that in, do a get score, drag off that, and do a set text as one word. That'll be this one right here under widget. And what we want to be able to do is pass in a value from the update score into the text. To do that, we need to add an input pin. So on the left hand side you'll see inputs. You hit a plus sign there, and let's give it a name of, we'll do total score, and let's make it a float. And now you have an input pin here. If you drag this in over here, it'll automatically create a toText float, and I believe the default values for this prototype will be just fine. And then we'll just hook up these execution pins here. And that should pretty much complete the code for the widget portion. Now we're going to be driving a lot of this logic from the game manager, so let's go back into our blueprints folder, find our game mode manager that we created in an earlier video, open that up here, and we're going to need another custom event. So we'll add custom event, we'll call it I scored, or whatever you want to call it. And then off the function timer on begin play, or you can do it before. We're going to come into a create widget. The class is going to be the WBP underscore HUD that we created earlier. To make things easier, we might as well make this a variable, so we can right click, promote to variable, and we can just call it HUD reference or HUD ref. And that'll be easier for us to manage values if we have to later. And off the HUD reference, you can drag off the blue pin and you can run a search for the function that we created over there, or the custom event, which was update score. And then you'll notice we have a score value here. So that's actually, we're going to be driving the score logic from the game manager. So let's create that variable. So we'll create a variable, just call it score, and it will of course be a float. And then I can drag this into here, and that sets the score that way on the begin play. But we have no way to actually drive the logic for like when the player actually gets an increase in the score, because this only happens on the begin play. So to drive that logic, we'll do the iScored function, and we'll just hold Control, drag out score. We'll hold Alt, drag out score. That gives a get and a set. And then all we're going to do is basically come into an add. And I'm actually going to hold Control and drag this down here. And we're going to be dragging a pin from the iScored. So we're going to be doing something similar that we did on the widget. You can just highlight this. And on the right hand side this time, there's an input section. We'll hit the plus sign there. And we'll just maybe call this points, so it's something different. I don't think it matters because they're separate classes. And then we can drag this into here. And then we're basically going to get the current score. We're going to add whatever points we're going to get. And this will be driven from the Asteroids blueprint. So we'll take whatever points it feeds in, add it to the existing score, set that to be the new score. And then after we do that, we need to get our HUD reference. And then off the HUD reference, we can call update score. And then we just plug these values in like so. And this should pretty much complete the code for the game manager. But right now we have the HUD created. We have some logic driving that score system. But you'll notice when we play, we don't actually have a HUD. So we gotta, basically to add the HUD, we gotta drive that on the player ship. So we'll open that up. So BP underscore ship. And we need to basically cast to the game manager and grab the widget, because the widget lives on the game manager, but the player is viewing the world from the BP ship. So we need to, on the begin play, what we can do is we can probably maybe drag this back. We'll come into maybe a sequence node. I think will work fine for this. And then on our original code, we'll put that into sequence 1. And then on sequence 0, we'll come into cast to BP game manager. And then off the object pin, you can get a reference to get game mode function. That'll return the game mode that the project settings is set to, which we set maps and modes to be the BP game manager. So now that we have that set, we might as well just promote this to a variable in case we need it later. And this will just be game manager reference. And then we can come off this and do a cast to the HUD. And we want to get HUD. And then off the HUD pin, you could say add to viewport. And traditionally, you're probably used to creating the widget, and then off the widget, you're adding to viewport. But because we're creating the widget on the game manager, the widget lives inside the game manager, so we need to cast to the game manager and just grab that HUD screen from there and then add it to the player's viewport. So that's all this code is basically doing. So with that, we should hopefully have our heads up display, which looks like we do. And you'll notice too, it says 0, even though in our HUD widget, we have it set to 25678. So that means that our code in the game manager is working as well. So it's basically taking the value of score, which is a variable that lives on the game manager, which is 0. Oops. And then it is casting or sending that to a function or an event on the HUD widget, which then basically takes that value and then passes it into the text element that is on the designer view here. So it basically changes this text element to 0 from the game manager, which is pretty cool. Now the other thing we'll need to do is actually update the code. I think that makes the most sense to do from the Asteroid. I mean, you could probably drive the logic from anywhere, but we might as well do it from the Asteroid because we already have the death code set up there. Because you gotta, in the traditional classic Asteroids game, there's different point values for the different sizes of rocks. It's going to be hard to get that from another blueprint. Asteroid already has that, so we might as well just put the code there. So I think we can come to the begin play. I don't think we ever made a cast to the game manager on the Asteroid. So we're going to do something similar here. We'll drag this off here. Maybe bring this down a bit here. I think that's maybe all fine. We'll come into another, I think a sequence node will work fine for this, and we'll do the same thing. Original code will go into sequence 1, and then sequence 0 will do a cast to BP game manager. We'll get game mode. Might as well promote it to a variable. Game manager reference, in case we need it later. Which we will need it later, actually. So that's the main reason we're doing this. And then we can just drag our comment box around here and then push it forward. And that is pretty much the only thing you need to do on the begin play. So that basically just gets the game manager in play on the Asteroid. So now under the death code, which is the I got lasered, we need to figure out where to update the score. The conditional checks, they're basically checking the size of the rock, right? Is it the biggest rock? Is it the medium-sized rock? Or is it the smallest rock? So we can set our point values here. So right before the destroy actor, we can maybe just drag that out. And then we can get the game manager. And then off the game manager, you remember the function was called I scored, I think it was. Yeah, I scored. We can drag this pin in here, connect that there, and then we could assign the point value. I think for the biggest rock, we'll give the player 50 points. And then we can just copy that, paste it over here. I think for the medium-sized rock, we'll give 100 points. And then right here, this is the smallest rock. And these are generally the hardest to shoot, so I think we'll give the player 200 points for that. And then we can compile and save. And hopefully, if I did everything right, we should get some actual score updates here. We've got a little rock that's 200 points, that's 100 points, 200 points, that's 100 points, and that's only 50 points, so it looks like our score system is functioning correctly. Alright everyone, I think we'll cut the video here to keep it short, but in the next video, we'll tackle player death so we can set up lives in the HUD so our player has a loss condition. As always, thanks for watching, consider subscribing, and see you on the next one.